The views and opinions expressed in these historical letters that may contain vernacular used in the World War II era, the post-war era, and the Cold War era do not reflect the views and opinions of any of the individuals involved with this project, including, but not limited to, the podcast's creators. Morning, Jamie.
Good morning, Allison.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm very well. I'm a little apprehensive,
Yeah.
maybe, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
How are you?
Well, I'm doing very well. And I just wanted to say, hey, this episode's going to come out on Memorial Day weekend. It's a slightly shorter episode than normal. We're going through 3 Sweetie letters. They're not as epically long as some of the more recent letters, but we certainly don't want to get into the letter that follows the third one because that's another book. So we're going to save that for the week after this one. But hey, it's Memorial Day weekend. We just wanted to send a thank you to all of the veterans, all of the members of our armed services, people of the past, people of the present, the families of the veterans. I switched my mug to be NAS Willow Grove because that's where Lou was for the majority of his career. So I figured it's a good time for that. But thank you on this Memorial Day weekend to everyone who served. This letter I'm really looking forward to. Jamie has not read the letters that are coming up, so she's in the same boat as the entire audience right now. And it's a rare time. But I told her this one's going to be fun because, Jamie, you've said so many times in this podcast, you love love. And there's so much love in these letters in Love Sweetie podcast.
Love.
Yeah, so it's time for love. We're back to love and love advice. So for those of our listeners that love Sweetie's take on romance, this one's just chock full of some of the best that we've seen so far. She's upping her game here in the love category. So if you're in a little bit of drama, well, that's actually a good amount of drama here. We're in the romance category fully for all 3 letters, which is really exciting. But before we get into that first one, because I know Jamie's like, oh my gosh, here comes the romance episodes. Just a reminder, if you could please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate that. If you're listening on our audio channels, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, whichever platform you're listening to the Love Sweetie podcast on. We appreciate all of that. And of course, if you could check out our website at www.lovesweetiepodcast.com, that's great. But I'm not going to leave Jamie laying in wait here any longer. Let's go into the first letter. Now, one thing to know about this letter, remember at the end of the last episode, if you've been listening to the podcast and you remember episode 56, because now we're in 57, go back to episode 56. At the very end, she writes to Jeanne. Jeanne, I'm sorry I couldn't write you a longer letter to respond to your letter. You're very good at writing to me. It's because she's writing to the whole family. This is one of the rare times where she's not being exactly honest with the rest of the family here. She then splits off on the same day, on November 5th, and continues with a letter that goes only to Jeanne. So this is the part that she said she wasn't writing. Oh, she wrote it. She had things to say to Jeanne. So we're going to start this episode with the part that she left out from her family in the last one. November 5th, 1947. Jeanne, I would like to endeavor to answer the letter you last wrote, in which this Clifford played such a great and interesting part. I do not want you to expect much help, for I feel, as I've already told you so many times before, you must make up your own mind in such a situation as this. I read it and thought about it, but refused to come to any conclusion when Lou came home. He read the letter while I finished getting our dinner ready, and when he came in, I said, Lou, without giving any further thought, what is your very first reaction to Jeanne's letter? And after some stuttering, he said he didn't think it sounded too good to him. With me, likewise. It isn't fair to judge him from here, and so you can't put too much importance on my opinion. But he's a Catholic. You and I both told Bob it was all right to marry into the Catholic Church if he loved Florence enough. It would have been a happy arrangement all around if the folks had been able to accept it. They didn't, and that went a long way towards making for strained relations between them. He would have to give up the church entirely, be married by a Protestant minister, before I'd even consider it. You say he drinks a little. Even a little is too much for me. But perhaps you and I do not see that as such a terrible thing. Like you, I said he drinks a little. He doesn't even do that now. I guess I won that round, and perhaps Clifford would do the same thing. As I've heard Mama say so many times, and I agree with her, don't marry him with the idea of making him over. It can't be done. Those are the only two things I can really object to, but you want to analyze your feelings pretty well before you commit yourself. You can't expect to be happily married to anybody if you feel that you would hurt his feelings by refusing him. Let me tell you how I felt. I'll tell you a secret. I felt Lou would think I wasn't very honest or sincere, and I confess only to you, that did have a bearing when I made up my mind to go ahead and marry him. I wasn't just too sure of myself. I thought a lot of him, and thought it was enough to marry on. It was. But I went through torment deciding. Now that I've been married for almost 4 years, I can look at it quite objectively, and I did love Lou enough to know that I wanted to marry him, though there were doubts in my mind. But I didn't love him anyways near as much as I loved him after we'd been married a year. I used to look back and say, I love him so much now that I don't know how I thought I loved him then. That's a little hard to understand, I guess. At the end of a year, I guess I felt the way I should have felt when I married him. It takes a lot of effort and determination. It does take a lot of love, too. If he'll give up the Catholics, and if you think his drinking isn't bad, then, if you think you love him, hop to it. Children do make a difference, of course, but they don't solve all problems. Well, let's both think a little more and write again. Maybe then we'll each be of more help. Write about it. Love, Sweetie. Only on account of the religion. He does sound okay to me, and I do not mean to put thumbs down. You've described your feeling of contentment with him, and that is of utmost importance. I can't be of much help. Daddy is a good judge of character, but he's also very critical. Dun, dun, dun.
I'm very, very glad that I could share that with you guys because that, yeah, well, first I do love.
Yeah.
This is,
Jeanne has a man.
Jeanne has a man, but he's a Catholic
Clifford.
that drinks. So we all know how Chester feels about that kind of stuff. And Sweetie, too.
It's of the times, especially the religious differences. We brought this up, many episodes ago. There was somebody else that I think Jeanne was interested in that was Catholic, and they were Presbyterian. And back then, Chester and Laura, they were born in the 1800s. The differences between even the Christian denominations were seen as very big differences. Today, I really doubt this would even be a concern at this point for most people in the modern day, especially within the same religion overall in Christianity. But back then, it made a difference at the time to this family.
You had to pick. You had to say you were Catholic. Because Bob married Florence.
Yeah.
And she's Catholic, and he converted.
Yeah.
So, and I can imagine that going to two different churches and stuff would be really hard with kids. Like, how would you, I mean, I guess you could if you wanted to, but see, it kind of lifts me up. Like, I'm like, oh, geez, God, man, but it's never going to work out. I can't foresee that remaining. And that's sad.
Yeah. I mean, we have Lou. She's like, just don't even think about it. What's your immediate gut reaction? We even get Lou's gut reaction because here she is. We see the scene. She's fixing dinner. Hey, check out this letter from Jeanne. And he stutters like, I don't think it's going to work. And that's Lou, just done. But one more thing I did want to mention about the religious differences, and I don't want to go into it too far, but I do like that she's noting she's been such a daddy's girl this whole time. And right at the end, she's like, you know what? I don't think he's right here. He's too critical sometimes. She was very affected. When you go back to episode 45 with Bob's death, she goes to the Catholic Church. She's let go of some of this, I think, in that moment. She's past it. The parents are not, at least from what we can tell from what she's saying. He's being too critical. So whatever Jeanne had written, she'd probably solicited the advice of Chester and Laura at this point. Something's going on behind the scenes. But she's calling out her dad on being too critical. And that's like a bit of a breaking point that we haven't really seen too much with Sweetie yet in these letters. So that's interesting to note as well.
Well, no. And two, I really want to get into the way that she feels about Lou and the way that things were, because I definitely 100% understand where she's coming from. It's amazing. You grow to love, and your love just grows. And I mean, through the various, stages of my marriage, newlyweds, you've been married for a while, then you have kids and you move and stuff. I had that he continually, I fall in love with him all the time. He does things constantly, and just even little things. And when I lost my dad and he was there, and he was just so supportive, I was like, I didn't even realize that I had the capacity to love as deeply as I do right now. Like it's amazing. So I can understand what she's saying here.
Yeah.
Being with him and like being even more in love with him.
Yeah.
Out of everything in the letter, and I know that Jeanne has, she's gone out with other men, and she's kind of have her romance struggles, with dating and whatnot. And that's a sad thing, to watch somebody go through. But again, to like understand how good she has it, she loves her husband and she's in a good marriage.
Yeah,
that's you're right.
I figured.
I love this letter so much.
And you know what?
Thank you. You're right. I was gonna love this letter.
Jamie, it just continues. It gets better. Sweetie's gonna double down. She's gonna write the next day. She's gonna continue with her thought process on November 6th of 1947. She's gonna start overthinking this, or not overthinking it at all. But the love continues. So here we go. We're just gonna let the whole letter play.
Say that letter.
November 6th, 1947. Dear Jeanne, I have hardly been able to live with myself since writing to you yesterday, and I hope I haven't done such damage that can't be repaired by this letter. I feel very guilty trying to judge your Clifford, and no doubt increasing your own indecisions. He sounds very nice. As you wrote, you've seen him for a year, and were impressed by his gentleman's qualities. That means a lot. I was interested in your date to Gone with the Wind, Foxes of Harrow, and to the birthday party, and to his brother's house, and I think he sounded very nice. As I said before, I'm against his being Catholic, and I'm against the drinking, but from seeing people all around me here, I must admit that isn't too serious, though I try to make Lou think so, and seem to have succeeded, for which I'm thankful beyond words. You wrote of your wanting a home and children. I was afraid to talk of that, but I guess I did all the damage yesterday, so I'll write about it now. A home and children are worth all the trouble and money they cost. I had to settle for all second-hand furniture and my dream house and 4 rooms rented, but I sure do love it, and now I'd almost hate to give up the furniture if I had a chance for new stuff. As for Louis, he's my pride and joy, and just the fact that he's Lou's baby makes Lou that much more dear to me too. You say he doesn't make you breathless. Well, I'm no authority, but I should think the comfortableness and sense of well-being you wrote about would be longer lasting and more satisfying in the long run than the breathlessness now. That right there I like, for I place a great deal of importance on being able to feel you can belong together with much in common. Don't worry about this idea of being too dominant. Daddy is, and I think you're a lot like Daddy, but I believe being tolerant is much, much more important. He has a right to his faults, as we all do. He'll have them all his life. If you recognize them now, they'll seem coarse later, and will require more tolerance then than now. I don't believe you said how old he is. You said he's 5'5". Good height for you. Say, is Clifford blonde, curly-haired, like the guy we chased at the dance ball? You don't often profit by others' experience in such cases as this. You just have to decide for yourself, as I've said so many times before. Frankly, I'd like to see you married to a nice guy who can give you a good home and have children. No matter how happy you may be, being completely independent, you'll be amazed at how much happier you can be just giving up that prized independence. Don't be swayed too much by what people say. A career, even one as interesting and profitable as nursing, can't give you as full or complete life as a husband and children, though such is often argued. On the other hand, a poor marriage can be worse than nothing. Ah, Jeanne, nobody can say. As Lou says, that's X, the unknown quantity. But promise, though, let me know quick. I hope I haven't done you or Clifford, what's his last name, harm in writing this. Ignorance can cause so much unnecessary indecision, and I hope I haven't done him wrong. Say, Jeanne, Lou has to have tires very soon, and we don't have the money to buy them outright. So could I ask you to send them and let me pay you by the month? I don't believe he'll have to have inner tubes, just the tires, but he needs 3 of them, and now. I'll send you $5 with this, some after the 20th of the month, and the rest when my next check comes. Send them freight. They'll be cheaper, I think. Use your own judgment about sending them. You'll know more about it than I do. They are 650 16s, and he prefers the tread like this. But if you think they know more about it, there, I'll be happy to trust your judgment. I'm sorry to ask you to buy them on such a plan, especially when we already owe you money, but pride goes before serious need, and his need for tires is hard on my nerves when nighttime comes and he's not home right on time. So write, Jeanne, and tell me your reaction to what I've written. Can I help it if I think the man isn't made who's good enough for you? I love you very much and just hope you get only the best to make you happy. If Clifford can do that, then he's my man, and I'm all for him. Right. Love, Sweetie. All right, and this letter does continue, but we're going to pause there because she's finishing these thoughts. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In our current culture,
yeah,
there really does seem to be a debate between like women having careers and children and marriage and staying at home I'm biased because the path that I've chosen is to stay at home and to take care of my family, my house, and my kids, and not pursue a career outside the home. I think that her words are so poignant.
Yep.
And this is probably, and I say this and I've said this before, this is probably my favorite letter. Because she really does get down to the very bare bones of what it means to make these choices to spend with somebody, like to be with somebody for your life, and to go into that. And she wrote 2 letters, and she is of 2 thoughts. And this is how women work. We have to sometimes think of things and say them out loud or write them. And then, we can then process it. It's a little easier. So to see like her different perspectives on this, I just think is so wise. Yeah. She's so wise. She's 25 and she's so learned and she has such good judgment and she's able to discern. And I agree with everything she said. I agree with it. No matter how happy you may be, you'll be amazed at how much happier you can be. I can't.
She's so articulate with it. If she had been an author, a published author, she probably would have been the best-selling romance author. She gets independence, and I love that Clifford took Jeanne to go see Gone with the Wind, because if you know that story, you get the independent character in Scarlett O'Hara, and that's her favorite film. And I think she identifies with this independent, strong-willed woman
Mm-hmm.
But there's also this huge romance that's going on at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's that classic story. And then I think Lou's line actually is one of my favorites here. The thing that he says about romance, it's the unknown X. That he just calls it that X, the unknown quantity. And he has a very few words with this, but it's perfect. The poignancy. I mean, I'm an individual I'm in my 40s now. I love my career and I'm independent. So maybe I'm on the other side of where Sweetie is. But I get it. She's saying there's a sacrifice for the unknown that might be better, right? But you'll never know. But then again, she has that perfect line she just inserts there and says, but a bad marriage could be worse. Like there's
And
still
she's
that.
right. She's right. Like all of this, like this is some of the best love advice.
Yep.
And she puts it down and it's so, and like you said, she never she didn't have like an outline. This came from her heart.
It did. Yeah.
It's beautiful. It was this, and I think that this is something that every young girl should read these letters.
Yeah.
Because it, and I think that Sweetie had a good mom and dad. And I think that she had her siblings too to help her. And that's that's the only way I can see that she, her upbringing and the things that she's gone through and stuff to have this wisdom that she has.
Yeah.
That she had as this young woman. And, maybe that's how they grew up. Maybe that they grew up a little bit faster in this time period. You had to, you were getting married at 18 and having babies by 20, and
there was a war.
And there was a war. Exactly.
You went through World War II. That did something. That is that unknowable quantity that he's kind of talking about too. That accelerated everybody's, I think, thought process on a lot of things in World War II in that generation. And I think one of the most amazing things about this letter in particular is if all we saw was the letter from November 5th that she withheld from the rest of the family, right? That's the amazing thing. She withholds this amazing one page that she tacks on to the end and says, Jeanne, I need you to listen about this Clifford individual. Here's my thoughts. Had the letter from the 6th not survived, had that not been in the collection, that would have been the only take that we had on this matter. But then we get the letter from the 6th. The fact that both letters still survive and we get to see the changing is just so phenomenal in my mind, that these are intact and they were all kept together. There's a note I think I had at the top of one of the pages. When Jeanne stored these letters, because she didn't keep all the envelopes, she stored them all together. So you can imagine Jeanne sitting there, aside from the big family circular that she got, and she's looking at these two letters side by side. And when Jeanne goes to store them, she stores them together in the same envelope. And that's why they're still there. So it's just, even the act of the preservation of this, what Jeanne did when she reacted to it, I'm so glad we have both, that we don't need to see these letters in isolation and think one way or the other. We're seeing it exactly as Jeanne sees it. And Jeanne, hey, where's all the commentary been, sweetie? She's been with this guy for a year.
I know. It's like a year. That's a long time, because people get married. Look at Dit.
Right.
Look at Sweetie.
Yeah.
But this isn't the end of this letter.
No, it's not.
There's more.
We'll continue on. There's a little bit more here. One thing about the tires. People are like, why is Jeanne sending tires here? Jeanne works at Lakeshore Tire. That's where she's the nurse, so she has access. In my bragging yesterday about Lewis, I forgot to tell you one of the nicest things. Lewis was looking through the Saturday Evening Post, and I saw him studying a picture for long moments. He finally came to me, dragging the magazine and pointing, saying, Aunt Jeanne! Aunt Jeanne! I was so pleased I could have wept. He had picked a dark-haired, long-haired girl, and he was just sure it was Aunt Jeanne. He's done it since, too, and all the girls are basically alike, and I just had to write that to you, too. I was so pleased he'd remembered you. I'll have to have some pictures of you to keep around. Send me a recent one, won't you? Love, Sweetie. Your birthday present will be a day or two late. Quite frivolous. I hope you'll be pleased, and perhaps write to say if it has gone into your... I'm always interested to hear about your dates, which brings to mind the current interest here. Elizabeth went to the dance where we went that night and met a guy. Then she went to California, and when she came home, he met her again at the dance, and from then on, things have progressed to a point where he has asked her to go steady, and she's expecting a ring for Christmas. and secretly, she's almost got herself married. He is 37, a widower, who was married for 11 years when his wife, who was 3 or 4 years older than he, died having her first baby. She met him in August, the last of August, and I have met him once. He is blonde, plumpish, he's 37, and too short. Yep, he is actually the same height or a little taller than she is, but I guess he seems shorter than he really is. He is very quiet, as she is, and almost shy. He owns his own home in Yeadon, rented out, since his wife's death, while he lives with his folks in the city. He is in the newspaper business and seems to have plenty of money, but aside from that, they don't know too much about him. He seemed very pleasant. He's a Democrat, and as you can well guess, Lou's mother has her married and with children already. As I said, I've only seen him once, so I don't know too much about him, but a pretty good bet. I've gone on and on long enough, so now I'm going to stop and see how the letters roll back to me in answer. Love to you all. Sweetie, Lou, and Lewis. Yeah, and I left that little tag there because, it's a reminder that we're using carbons.
Yes.
So when Jeanne was sent the letter from the previous episode, she gets a half page with the duplicate in this one. So for anybody that didn't listen to last week's letter, it's such an important update. Elizabeth's also found the guide too. And that little half page was with this one. So it is the same text at the very end from the cliffhanger from the last one. But if anyone's new to the podcast, you need this update as well. And it's a very interesting one. But then we get to this part about the Saturday Evening Post with little Lewis.
How adorable. Like, that's so sweet. And I'm sure that made her happy because she's like, oh, you're Aunt Jeanne. You know you're Aunt Jeanne.
Yeah. So.
Well, so I was like, oh, this sounds very familiar. The last part of that about Elizabeth, but yes, it's the carbon. Thank you.
That's what's doing it.
Is there? There's another one, right?
We do have one more letter. A little more of an update here. So the love continues, and we head into December of 1947. 37 South Love Lane, Norwood, Pennsylvania, December 1st, 1947. Dearest Jeanne, the tires have just now arrived, which spurs me on to write the letter now long overdue to thank you for your extra special birthday gift. Talk about making a hit. You did. Everyone who has seen them so far has immediately turned green and sprouted horns, from the neighbors to Lou's mother, who, like our mamma, has always wanted a pair, and I confess to feeling a little selfish where mamma is concerned. These seem lighter than any I have used before, which makes for quicker cutting and no cramps in the palm of my hand, which means a great deal, believe me. The buttonholer and mender haven't been used because I'm humping so on my Christmas sewing, which I fear won't amount to so much anyway. You'll not find pinking on many of the pieces I send, since they were cut out so long ago and, alas, aren't finished yet. The flannel is sure nice, Jeanne. I know what it must have cost, and if I can do so, I'm going to make Lewis some night clothes and put them under the tree from Aunt Jeanne. You sure did buy what we wanted and needed most, and I'm sure pleased to have them. Thanks again. Yeah, and I wanted to pause here real quick, just in case. I think some people picked up on what the gift was.
Yes.
If you know you're sewing and you're crafting, and others may not have. I think she got pinking shears.
Yes.
Yeah, a really nice pair.
A really nice pair. And she's been showing them off, and everybody's like, that's a nice pair of pinking shears.
Yep. If you know you're sewing, great. If you don't, look it up. But that's what she's super excited about. The tires came today, too. Here's some more to apply on the cost of them. Please write and tell me what the balance is, and I'll try to get it to you as soon as possible. You know, I hope, how much we do appreciate your buying them for us. I hated to ask you to let us pay for them on time, but even inconvenience to you at Christmas time seemed a lesser evil than finding Lou in a ravine in Fairmount Park. Maybe we can pay you off sooner, though. I hope you aren't caught too short on account of us. I'm going to forbid his driving with them until he gets the wheels balanced again. I've been awaiting news of Clifford and the trip home. Mama said you'd write a detailed account, but I guess you've been busy. Anyway, I'd like to hear from you. I wrote of Elizabeth's fat little widower. He is getting a ring for Christmas, but the news of its coming was to be a secret. I doubt if they'll be married before May or June of next year. She saw a pretty ring for $200 that she wanted and told him about it, but he said he thought $100 or $125 was plenty to pay for a ring, and she's so disappointed she's ready to kick off. She was quite thrilled with him before this happened, but her ardor has considerably dropped off, I think. More than $75 worth. I told them you were deciding too, and so they are quite curious. Give, won't you? We're having a round of colds again, and with no sulfa or fighting equipment, though I did write and ask Daddy for some. I put Louis to bed Wednesday night, okay, though I noticed he coughed some. He seemed okay Thursday Thanksgiving, and though Lou had duty, etc., and couldn't be home, I went to Lou's mother's for turkey since Marguerite and Joe came from New York. We came home a little after 7. I put Louis to bed okay and washed my hair before I got to sleep at 11. Louis was awake and crying, delirious with a temperature of 103.6. He was trying to push bugs or something from him, saw things on me and fought me. Me alone, and a greenhorn. I just did what I could after rousing Daddy out of bed to call a doctor. 3 doctors refused to come, for it was 1, late, 2, too tired, and 3, we were Navy personnel and wouldn't be their patients anyway. So as I cussed them individually and collectively, I soothed him, gave him a heavy dose of aspirin, an enema, and applied cold clothes to gradually take it down. Then the bug chasing stopped, and he started laughing, and I thought I'd die. I don't mean from laughing either. I was scared, and I felt so sorry for the little kid. I could have died myself. It lasted until about 5 a.m. when the fever broke. I called Willow Grove at 8:30 and made them send him home so we could go to the hospital. I guess that was the worst. He's had no temperature since, and aside from a bad cough, he's doing well now, though I try to keep him quiet and restful. There's a lot more to getting married than saying I do and changing the last initial on your monogram. As for Christmas, I'm nearly sick. I've made and am making clothes. Pleated skirt and blouse for M, Susie, and KM, and a dress also for M, a laundry bag for MA, and Chris, also a wood-burning set. Hope to make pants and shirts for F and R. As for the adults, we've no money, and I'm faced with buying for Lou's family, and not mine, as well as for Lou and Louis, for our own Christmas. As Vera Livingston says, it's no disgrace to be poor, but it is damned inconvenient. Thanks so much for the nice gifts and tires. We surely do appreciate all you do for us so very much. Do tell Sister I'm going to write and thank her for the book as soon as Louis is able to entertain himself a little better. Love, Sweetie, Lou, and Louis.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. A little more gossip and drama on this side, on the Elizabeth side. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
This is where Elizabeth, in my mind, my dad has fond memories of his Aunt Betty. So that was eventually his nickname for her. And says, well, it was really nice when we went to Aunt Betty's house, and she was very pleasant, There's moments when Elizabeth is like the Betty Elizabeth. And then there's moments when Elizabeth lives up to her nickname of Dit. And this is a Dit moment in my book. The ring just isn't expensive enough for Dit. She might weigh her entire future on $75. We'll see.
That sounds like a very Dit thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know Dit.
Yep. So, question mark there. But then they're interested in the Jeanne drama going on as well, because they're like, oh, Jeanne might get married too. We don't know what's going to happen there. And we're left hanging with all of this, which is why this episode is called She's Expecting a Ring for Christmas. We don't know yet what's going to happen.
But this was a very good episode, I think, and I always try to call attention to when we discuss things that happened back in this time period that are very relatable and could have easily happened today.
Yeah.
These are all like experiences and situations that
Mm-hmm.
you get now,
Yep.
and how they handle them. Well, I mean, I'm sorry to like anytime I hear anything about poor Lewis.
Mm-hmm.
And especially given the time when she's not, and she called how many doctors and nobody was willing to come.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah,
Mm-hmm.
it's very hard sometimes to hear that and to like remember, like having those sick times with the kids. But
Mm-hmm.
they got through it, and he got through it.
He did. Yeah.
So she got through it, he got through.
Yeah.
But these were definitely they were
Yeah.
more like about love and
Mhm.
relationships and than
Mhm.
we've seen for a little while.
Yeah, and compacted to like the same exact time frame. I thought they
Mhm.
were just three letters that really worked well together for this episode before we head into the holidays of 47, which we will in the next episode with the essays, book long epic letters that are following. She's written three short ones now to Jeanne, so time to follow with the epic letters, and they're certainly coming. But again, we wish everybody a great Memorial Day weekend, with family and friends. Thank you to all those who served. And with that, we'll see you next week as the Love Sweetie podcast continues.